Hi, welcome to this video on adding and subtracting fractions. This video is based largely on my previous video on working with fractions, when we look at equivalent fractions and converting between mixed numbers and improper fractions and back. So I advise you to have a look at that video first, or perhaps have a look at another one on YouTube or Khan Academy or something like that. Alright, please copy down these notes, so pause the video, take some time to do that, so then you can focus on the maths that we're going to do. Alright, so I'm assuming you've done that, let's carry on. Alright, at this point it's quite easy to add and subtract fractions, simply because if we actually talk about them, we use maths language. What I've got here is I've got 2/5. It would be the same thing as me saying I've got, linguistically it's the same thing as me saying I've got 2 triangles. And here I've got 1/5, so I've got 1 triangle. I want to add them together, so I've got 2 triangles plus 1 triangle, that must leave me with 3 triangles. Okay, so 2/5 plus 1/5 must give me 3/5. Alright? So when we add or subtract fractions, we always keep our denominators the same. Now obviously, this is not, mathematically equivalent to working with fractions, but linguistically it's the same thing. If I have 8/9 and I take away 3/9, I'm left with 5/9 at the end. Okay, my problem comes in is when instead of having my denominators be the same, I actually end up with different denominators. So let's say I have 2/5 plus 3/4. My issue here is that I can't add fifths and quarters, because instead of triangles, I've now got triangles and squares. That doesn't work, alright? Even linguistically. But I can use equivalent fractions to help me. Right? So I've got 2/5, and 2/5 is the same as 4/10. It's also the same as 6/15. It's also the same as 8/20. And on and on and on and on. Likewise, I can do the same with 3/4. So I've got to find a fraction of fifths where my denominators are the same. And I can use my lowest common multiple of the denominators to help me. In other words, what is the smallest number that both 5 and 4 go into? Clearly that's 20. Right? And the shortcut there is you can actually do 5 times 4. It might not give you the lowest common multiple, but it will definitely give you a low multiple, or a common multiple at least. So now I ask myself, what have I done to 5 to get to 20? Because remember, my golden rule, what I do at the bottom, I must do to the top. So I've clearly times that by 4. So that gives me 8. What have I done to 4 to get to 20? I've times it by 5, so that gives me 15. 15 plus 8, if I add them together, I end up with 23. 23 20ths. And then I can convert my improper fraction into a mixed number. So divide through by 20, so I end up with I end up with 20 as my denominator, that stays the same. 20 into 23 goes once, remainder 3. Okay, the same thing works with subtracting fractions. Right, so for example, if I had the sum 4/5 minus 2/3 now. Okay, 4/5 minus 2/3. My common denominator here, I can't subtract it, I've got different denominators, so I'm going to convert them both into 15ths, and I knew that because 3 times 5 is 15. What have I done to 5 to get to 15? I've times it by 3. So I must do the same to the top, times by 3. 4 times 3 is 12. What have I done to 3 to get to 15? I've times it by 5. So I must do the same to the top, so it gives me 10. And if we subtract, I end up with 2 watts? 2/15ths. Okay, luckily there I don't have to convert to improper fractions because it's not improper, it's fine. Alright, so that is subtraction and addition of fractions. If you want to have a look at the following examples and do these yourself, if you need time maybe rewind, but give yourself a bit of time and have a look at these. Alright, assuming you've done them, I'm going to go through the answers with you now. Alright, so for adding, for the first one, I found a common denominator of 45 and converted them. For the second one, you'll notice I actually can convert the 3/4 into 8ths. Right? That's quite convenient for me, which means I don't have to multiply. If you did multiply, all right, and you ended up with 32, as long as you simplify it at the end, you should have got the exact same answer that I did there. Alright, but you'll notice here, this is actually a bit faster because it saves me that extra time. look for that. If you are confused though and you just want one method to do that, then multiplying the denominators together to find your common denominator will help you. Alright, the subtracting, very similar there. In the subtracting, the first one I had a denominator of 18, because I just went 2 times 9, but in the second one, I've actually got a common denominator of 8. All I do is I'll convert the 3/4 into 6/8, and then I can subtract there. Right, so well done to you if you did those. If not, maybe have a look through and see if you can do some extra. If you need some extra help on this though, have a look on Khan Academy, have a look elsewhere on YouTube, perhaps have a look at some of my other videos, maybe do some multiplying and dividing, or perhaps go back and have a look at some equivalent fractions. Alright, that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Cheers.